Wrexham, Wrexham, Wrexham. A club I'm sure you've all heard of, whether you like them or not. And if you haven't, well then I'm just going to assume you live under a rock, because a few weeks ago these guys were quite literally just promoted to the Championship, despite finishing 19th in non-league just 5 years ago. But now the tables have turned and these guys have broken into the Championship, and who knows, at the end of the season we might even be welcoming them to the Premier League. Now whenever someone mentions Wrexham on social media, more often than not the reactions are the same, and those reactions are negative reactions. And again, maybe I'm different from you, but from what I see on social media and the people I speak to, most things I hear and see are anti-Wrexham. And that's mainly down to the fact that many people sort of see Wrexham as an unfair establishment. A club that was bought by very famous and very wealthy owners, and now all of a sudden in just 5 years they're in the English Championship. And to be honest, these kinds of reactions are not just exclusive to Wrexham, to be fair. These types of reactions are seen all across football, with fans who are very disapproving, let's say, towards clubs with lots of money, and clubs who have these sort of big takeovers, because it feels like these clubs are almost just monopolising football by bringing in these vastly wealthy owners who sometimes will quite literally throw money at their club to fix their problems. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that does work, and sometimes it doesn't. The best examples I can give is Chelsea and Manchester City, two clubs who were taken over by very largely wealthy owners who invested heavily into their respective institution. And this allowed both clubs to go from little success to huge success and pretty much dominance of the Premier League, particularly in the case of clubs like Man City. Now in no way am I saying Wrexham are on the level of Man City or Chelsea, no, but the reactions to both of these kinds of clubs are similar, and for most clubs they are very anti-takeover because it's seen as plastic. Now like I said, these kind of reactions are usually aimed at quote unquote smaller clubs who, again, quote unquote don't have any history, or any successful history at least. This is just me hypothetically speaking, but if someone like Liverpool or Man United were to have a huge takeover, I don't think the reaction would actually be as bad in comparison to when quote unquote smaller clubs get taken over. In the case of that video, that is Wrexham. Now even though they are the third oldest club in the world, you would think they have some sort of history, and by history I mean success, since that's how most people define history nowadays. But for Wrexham this has never really been the case. They've always been a club that have sat in the lower leagues of football, well not even the lower leagues, more often than not the non-leagues of English football. And they've always been a club that has been pretty ridiculed with a lot of issues in the past, mainly due to financial difficulties. So much so that in 2004 the club even went into administration after a vast majority of off-the-pitch issues with the owners came to light. This led to them becoming the first league club to suffer a 10-point deduction, dropping them from the likes of mid-table in League One all the way down to non-league by 2008. So clearly there is obviously quote-unquote history, but not history in terms of success and championships. More history that's connotated with struggle, hardship and insecurity. And obviously clearly Wrexham are a club who have been through a lot, and their fan base has been through a whole lot as well. And for more than a decade, Wrexham has struggled in the trenches of non-league football, and despite getting close to promotion in the early 2010s, they could never really cross the finish line. And by the end of the COVID season, Wrexham finished in the lowest ever league position, finishing 19th, rounding off a poor season, and the future was looking so bleak for this club. But in November of 2022, all of this hardship would be completely flipped on its head. Usually when we talk about takeovers, we think of Premier League teams being taken over by Russian oligarchs or Thai billionaires or some sort of Saudi investment funds. But Wrexham were to be taken over by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McKennelly, which to this day still sounds like some sort of fever dream, with both actors receiving a 98.6% backing vote from the Wrexham Supporter Trust. But finally it looked like the Wrexham dark period was coming to an end, or at least it was about to change for the better. And very shortly there would be a docu-series that followed this whole process along the way, kind of similar to the Class of 92 docu-series where ex-Man United pros took over Salford. Now Wrexham already had quite a large fan base, at least for a non-league club, even before the takeover, but of course having such a big docu-series plastered everywhere by two incredibly famous individuals, this obviously helped expand the club's brand even further, with the club now quite literally have a global audience watching them. And thanks to the money that was brought in, this attracted loads of players to the club, even players from the leagues above them, and not just like your average youngster trying to get game time on loan or something like that. Some of these players that Wrexham were signing were some of the best players in League One and League Two at the time, and they were being brought down to play for Wrexham, who were at the time 1 or 2 leagues below them. And after 3 seasons of getting closer and closer and closer, 3 years after the takeover, and after strong investment and recruitment strategy, Wrexham won the league title and were promoted to League Two after being outside of it for 15 years, amassing 111 points in the league that season, which was a record for the top 5 divisions across English football, increasing their income to over 10 million. And now at that point I guess they are in the quote unquote big leagues, they are in the EFL. And finally after a 15-year drought, on came the 23-24 season, with Wrexham's chance to prove a point in League Two. Now of course, this being their first time in League Two in 15 years, many people didn't really know what was going to happen. People were thinking they could maybe finish in a top spot, will they just finish mid-table, or will they just go straight back down again? And well, they actually managed to gain promotion, finishing second behind Stockport County, and were then promoted to League One. And obviously, back to my point earlier, Wrexham were quite literally a global sensation thanks to their owners like Ryan Reynolds, and thanks to their docu-series that they had produced, consistently being the headline of some of the main media channels across North America. And by the time the 24-25 season had started, Wrexham had already received new investment into the club by the Allen family of Skeneatles. I have no idea if I've said that right. But yeah, all of a sudden Wrexham have gone from this non-league club to a League One side, which had at that point raised over £100 million, which is just insane for a League One club. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but in their first season in League One after 19 years, they've been promoted again, finishing second like they did the season before, this time behind league leaders Birmingham City, leading to the end of the season where they have now just been promoted to the Championship, just one step away from the Premier League. And with that obviously came more fan attraction, investment and increase in valuation, with the club allegedly being worth about 150 million as I record this, an increase of 7,400% in just 4 years. And that's sort of the whole story of Wrexham as a club, as an institution. And going back to what I said at the start of the video, Wrexham are a club that have a lot of controversy around them due to the points I said at the start of the video. And this is going to sound like a cop-out answer, but to be honest, I agree with both sides of the argument. I can understand where the negativity of it comes from, just a random club from non-league being taken over just purely by chance, who then take all the best players from 1 or 2 leagues above them and win the league. Like I said, I agree with the point that that does feel a bit unfair, particularly to the teams around them who don't have that sort of investment and that backing and that ability to just buy players but leagues above their level. I couldn't imagine if you're someone like a Notts County fan, for example, where you're competing with Wrexham in non-league without anywhere near the resources or money, to just be beat by a team with, again, just loads of money who are just taking all these players from a couple of leagues above you. Like, could you genuinely imagine a Championship team, for example, taking all of the best players from the Premier League and bringing them to their club? Like, I couldn't imagine like flipping Haaland or Salah going to Burnley or Leeds. I couldn't imagine it. It just wouldn't sound real. And for those lower league club supporters, they will probably feel a bit hard done by. And I guess they have been hard done by. And they probably feel that the whole thing is so hard to compete against, because to be honest, it is. What else can you really do? But the whole big money owner takes over small club is nothing new, particularly in English football. And the argument I always go to is, if it was your club, you would take it. But the other side of the argument is also valid as well. If Fabrizio Romano came out tomorrow and said that your club is looking at being backed by a Saudi investment fund takeover, you'd obviously accept it, because who wouldn't? The benefits are so great and it can bring your club a long way at success and completely change the history and trajectory of your whole club. So I get it, and to be honest, I don't think Wrexham have necessarily done anything wrong. They're just one of the lucky ones who've been taken over by great owners who invest correctly and actually care for their club. And it is nice for those sort of loyal fans, especially the ones who suffered through all the dark times. So yeah, like I said, I get both sides of it. But what do you guys think about Wrexham? Let me know in the comments, and if you're new around here, why not hit the subscribe button as well, because it always helps with the videos. And yeah, thanks for watching. This has been Discussing Ball.